If you are a Mazda enthusiast or a potential customer or just a car enthusiast for that matter, I'm sure that you've seen photos and videos all over the internet about the new CX-90. In fact, there's a very angry Japanese dude that's driving it. The same Japanese guy that basically kicked Wolverine's ass. He's also the same guy that kicked Tom Cruise's ass in a different movie. But anyway, this is what we're talking about. The CX-90, the very first ever CX-90, and it has finally been launched here on our shores in the Philippines. Now, while the general consensus is that it's basically an exploded form of the CX-60, that is somewhat true, but there's still a lot to talk about the automobile. So on this walk around, we're going to cover as much of it as we can, the exterior, the interior, and of course, the powertrain and whatnot. But let's start where what everybody is actually clamoring for, which is its price. Now, as of filming, I don't know exactly what the price of this automobile is, but I can tell you that it will breach, for the very first time, 3 million Philippine pesos, because the most expensive car currently in Mazda's lineup is the CX-9 at 2,990,000 Philippine pesos. But I'm pretty sure that the CX-90 will exceed that. By how much, I don't know. And yet the editors will actually put it up right now. And what I would like to know from everybody watching this video is, what do you guys think about that price? Do you think that the CX-90 is worth it? You're not really gonna know until I take you through it, right? Let's do that right now. So on the front clip, you will notice that it is very much similar to the CX-60, which is that it's very broad and it's very flat. It's not angular as that you will find in most other Mazda products. No, this one is very flat. And like the CX-60, the grille is also very, very different. The grille on the CX-90, in both these models, by the way, are similar to the gasoline variant of the CX-60 because, well, not because, but it just so happens that this is also a gasoline variant. Both these models are actually gasoline variant. There is only one engine option available for the CX-90, which is a 3.3 six-cylinder, very nice, gasoline engine that produces 284 horses and 450 Newton meters of torque, mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission that also has a 48-volt hybrid system. Now, this hybrid system in this vehicle is not just a system that powers the electronics of the vehicle. No, it also propels the vehicle from a very slight acceleration from a standstill. Now, as of filming this, they're still in talks with the government to make sure that this should be excluded from the number coding. I'm no expert on that particular field, but I'm sure we'll get more news of that. And once we do, we will definitely publish it on AutoDeal.com.ph. But again, back to the automobile. When you look at it from its side, it's kind of hard not to compare it to the CX-9 because in all honesty, it has similar shapes, right? And size too, except for this one looks like it kind of ate a lot for lunch and is busting out of its shirt because it's a little bit on the bigger side. Bigger in the sense that the length of the body itself is about an inch and a half longer. The big difference is the wheelbase. The wheelbase is 7 inches, 7.5 inches longer. That's the difference between me and Jack. Man, that's huge. No, not sideways. Never mind. Also new to the Mazda lineup are these gorgeous, gorgeous wheels. This is the first time that there are 21 inches of gorgeousness on a Mazda product. Previously, you've got like 20 inches, you've got 19s, not here 21 inches. And although the tires don't look like they're very sexy, I gotta tell you that they're actually as thin as possible because they're already 45 series. And I never thought I'd say that even a 45 series tire looks comfortable on an automobile. It is a little bit shorter than a CX-9 by all of 2 millimeters, so that's a fingernail. The ground clearance is a little bit less than a CX-9 in the sense that this has 203 millimeters of ground clearance, so 17 millimeters less. But this is still most definitely what you would call a crossover. So the automobile will still definitely ride very, very well. And then lastly, what you will notice is that obviously the length of the automobile up front mimics that of the CX-60 because the bonnet is very long. Obviously, it needs to be long because it needs to house all that muscle. And at the same time, the overhang up here up front is much shorter in also. At the rear, it's much longer, which what does is that it makes the car look like it's rear biased. Very elegant. Rear bias too is the drivetrain of the automobile because this is an all-wheel drive system. So it is rear biased when you're going, but when it needs to get racy and it needs as much traction as possible, the all-wheel drive system kicks in. Now with all that length, you'd expect a lot more space inside. That is exactly what you get. Something that you don't really get a lot of in a three-seater automobile is a lot of space behind the third row, and yet here you do. Much more than you would in the CX-9. The CX-90 has got a lot more space. Now, the amount of space back here has been a point of argument. We're trying to figure out just exactly what the figure is. While we don't agree on a particular figure, I can tell you that by judging it, I can most definitely put a golf bag here laying down, and if need be, I could put a second one directly above it. Now, when you fold the third row, that's when we can get into a little bit more specific there, because I can tell you that when you fold the third row, you're looking at over 1,100 liters of space, which is like golf bag galore. And then obviously even more so when you fold the second row. But then why would you do that? These are captain's chairs. I'll get to that a little bit later. Now, this has been a talking point between Jack and I because of the shape of the rear. Now, Jack wants to say that it kind of has a European SUV feel to it, whereas I think it's actually closer to that of a Japanese, specifically a CRV. I somehow see a CRV, maybe because of the way that it slopes and this bulge here that's found on the CX-60, maybe because of the light. Or no, the CX-60 has a bulge.
Ah, okay.
Stop correcting me in the middle of my review, Jack. Anyway, the lights also is a little bit something that, you know what? This is a walk-around. It's not the review. So we'll save those comments for the walk-around. I'm just here to report to you just exactly what is available in the vehicle, what it kind of looks like. So you got some plastics on either side, a bulge here like I mentioned, lights that stretch somewhat to the center, some nice chrome here and on the bottom. And then because Mazda cares about what Jack thinks all the time, you won't see any exhaust tips here at all, zero. But you will find them if you kind of go deep. There's one there, and then there's one there. That's for Jack. It's kind of funny because when they were presenting this car to me and I asked about the third row, they basically said it's better off for people that are within the 5-foot region. So very nicely, they were trying to say better for Kako, not so good for Jack, but they didn't want to hurt my feelings. Whatever. Anyway, so yes, better for much shorter passengers such as children or under tall individuals such as myself, but it's still very comfortable because the seat material back there is the same as you would find all over the cabin. And then you've got 2 charging points in the back in the form of Type-C, so it's fast charging, bottle holders as well, and air vents too, found on the side instead of up on top. So kind of Volvo-esque kind of a thing. But this is really what I wanted to show you when we open the rear door, which is the captain's seats that are available in one of 2 model variants for the CX-90. And it is, yeah, it's huge. It's business class space. I like the fact that I've got cup holders and a cubby hole found in the center. Then you've got your Type-C charging points up front. You've got your air controls, your temperature and air controls for, oh, it's not up there. It's down here. And then you've got your privacy shade in your windows. An addition to what they've put inside this car is, well, see, the CX-9 is sort of like whoever drives is the king of the road. The CX-8 is sort of like shared opulence kind of a thing, right? There's no real king inside that car. And they've taken something from both those cars. They've taken the opulence of the CX-9 and like the CX-8, they spread it around in the form that these rear seats actually have air vents in them. So it's ventilated seats and not warmed. Cool seats. So all 4 passengers here inside the cabin have cool seats, and that I do like very, very much. So yes, very comfortable. I see myself easily being driven in this automobile quite easily. I've got a lot of leg room. Headroom is quite good, even though that there is a beautiful panoramic roof up on top. It may be a bit shorter by 2 millimeters, as I mentioned, than the CX-9, but it has a little bit more headroom than the CX-9 inside this CX-90. A bit confusing when you're talking about those two. The patterns that you will see in the seats, such as the perforation that you see here and the leather here, and if I'm not mistaken, yes, more leather on the door. The color patterns that you will find inside this six-seater is similar to the diesel variant of the CX-60, where it's tan or brown or mocha. Is it mocha, Jack? They said mocha, right? Somewhere around that color. Whereas in the seven-seater CX-90, the interior resembles that of the gasoline variant of the CX-60. It's all black and it's actually much, much more tame. Something, truthfully, I actually would prefer. I'm not saying that this is bad. No, it's just I kind of like that. I could definitely live, I could see myself inside this car and have Jack drive me for the rest of my life.
Why me?
Well, who else is going to drive me? My son? Have you seen him play Gran Turismo? He crashes everywhere. Forget it. And then also check out the way, or rather the angle that the door opens for the rear passenger. It's almost 90 degrees. That's huge. You really feel like a king getting in and out. And you also won't get your legs or your feet wet because as you close the door, it goes all the way down to prevent any splash or mud getting on you. I like that. Similarities you will definitely find in the driver's seat rather, of the CX-90 with that of the CX-60, which is to say that you still get very, very large screens in the size of over 12 inches as your instrument cluster and over 12 inches for your infotainment. And then you've got a very large 10-inch heads-up display directly in front of you, which is also can be found in the CX-60. Much to some of the equipment in here, all the bells and whistles, including this really, really cool tech that it has facial recognition, so that when you step inside the vehicle, it adjusts everything to your driver profile, whether it's the seat height and position, the steering wheel, the presets on the radio, including systems like if you want lane keep assist on or off and your start-stop system on or off, it changes everything for you, including like the levels of the treble and the bass of the radio. It's fantastic. For a more in-depth look on that, head on over to our walk-around of the CX-60 because the link is somewhere down below. Now, that is actually twofold because if you feel as if that this automobile may be a little too big for your liking, well, perhaps the CX-60 is something closer to your heart because it is actually lighter. It's got the same engine, so it's probably got a more aggressive feel when you're driving to it. We'll know soon when we get these two cars out for a proper review on Behind the Wheel. So on to what remains inside the vehicle, which is the color palette. Like the rear seats, like I mentioned, it's tan or brown or mocha or chocolate, however you want to call it, with a dark stripe down the center. It's real Napa, much like the diesel variant of the CX-60. And like the diesel variant of the CX-60, it also has a brown steering wheel on the inside and black on the outside. I'm still not 100% sold on it. Jack loves it because he thinks it's like a very expensive European car. Yeah, I get what he's going for. There are, like the CX-60, touches of suede on the door panel and on the dashboard. I am not a big fan of it because I think it will get ruined immediately, but I have been told, much like it is in the CX-60, so I made a mistake there, this is not real suede. It's synthetic, so it's not going to fade, and cleaning it should be a heck of a lot easier. So forgive me on that mistake on the CX-60. I'm making it right on the CX-90. So that will wrap it up for the driver's seat in the CX-90. The last thing I want to talk about actually, and it's actually one of my other favorites of this car, is the color. Now, I'm not saying I don't like this car. No, not at all. But one of my very favorite aspects of this automobile is the colors that it is available in. This particular color is called Artisan Red. Now, it's not the very first time it's made its appearance on Philippine shores because on the 20th anniversary of Mazda here in the Philippines, they came out with a Mazda 6 with this particular color itself. However, on that Mazda 6, they're only going to make 20 of them. In this car, it's readily available. Sure, of course, there's a big price difference, but hey, at least the color is available. This color is so cool and special that to achieve this color, what Mazda did was take the best of their premium colors available and then come up with this. They wanted to make something that looked like red wine, fine aged red wine. So they took the red from the Soul Crystal Red, they took the black from the Machine Gray, then they took the application of the aluminum flakes from the white car, and then they mixed it all together and came up with this. Isn't it? It's just, it depends on what angle you look at it. Sometimes it's red, sometimes it's black, but basically, like what I said earlier, what they were trying to capture was aged fine wine. So it's perfect for someone like me, mature, elegant,
And aged.
and aged. Thanks a lot for that, Jack. I will say this though, I wish that it was more interchangeable because although I like these wheels, I like the wheels on the 8-seater a little bit better, but I want this color with that color leather in this configuration.
What?
Which is 6. I know I'm weird like that, but anyway, what's a lot simpler is if you use our comparison tool. It's not a configuration tool, but a comparison tool. And see how the CX-90 stands up against other vehicles. Like let's say, for example, you can pit it up against the Palisade or the Evoltis. Automobiles that are similar in size and carry the same amount of people. But if you want to get even more into it, try the comparison tool and put, let's say, for example, the CX-90 up against cars like the BM X5 or even Jack. What Lexus can we put this up? The RX. We can put this up against those automobiles because they have the same engine, which is a 6-cylinder, but this particular car actually is like $1 million more affordable and it carries more people. But then I'll leave all of that to you. And also, when you're ready, try the Get Quote button if you're ready to purchase because this is now available all over the Philippines. And contrary to popular belief, I do not get a cut every time you use the Get Quote button because we've seen your comments. I don't drive a Lexus, and I don't drive this either. You know what car I drive, right? Thanks for watching. Stay safe. See you soon.